Hey guys, and welcome to this video. This is going to be a very important video. It's about something that I have been through. It will be about my healing journey. I have struggled with an incredible amount of fatigue and bloating. And for years, the doctors didn't take me seriously. I thought I was just going to stay like that forever. I was doubting myself, and I was doubting that I would ever find any answers. But let me tell you, there are answers. And today I don't have any fatigue, any bloating, and another problem, reflux, that I also struggled with, I have gotten rid of. And that's why I thought I of course had to make a video on this topic, because it might help somebody else. So let's start from the beginning. I was so sick. I was so sick and tired, and it kind of sneaked up on me. It started when I look back, maybe a year before it actually all came crashing down for me. So let's start there. A year before, I had gotten the corona vaccine. I had had corona twice. I had had a hormonal IUD, and I had been through a lot of stress. So, as you might imagine, I was, of course, thinking if any of these things might be part of the cause to why I was suddenly feeling so weak and so tired and unable to digest my food. The fatigue and energy kind of came first, and for that reason, I knew that there were more things going on than just my nutrition. But that was, of course, the first indicator that I was eating something my body didn't like. Another symptom that I was really struggling with was feeling like I perceived the world through a dirty glass. I was not really alive, if that makes any sense. It might for some of you, unfortunately, but I felt like I was just waltzing through life, not really feeling anything, feeling kind of numb, feeling kind of shut down, tired, weak. I remember I was in Norway trying to kind of wake myself up. So I went for this travel to a farm, which I made another video about actually, but I was told to leave this farm. And despite the video being very optimistic and about me trying to get the best out of a bad situation, something that happened while I was told to leave made me quite nervous. Because when they told me to leave, that was kind of an emergency, right? That is when you're supposed to be like, okay, now what? What do I do? And I did not get that feeling. I did not get the feeling of urgency, of there's a problem, I need to solve it. I just didn't care. And I remember that at that point, I felt like I had lost myself, because I have always, maybe because of my diagnosis, I have ADHD and autism, I have always been very good in emergencies. And suddenly I had lost this willpower to do anything. I just didn't care. And that made me quite sad and freaked me out. And a month later, I was in my apartment, and I remember that I was going up to pee. It was in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep that night. And suddenly my head just felt so heavy. I felt deeply in my bones that something is wrong with my body. And so I threw myself on the floor, called 911, canceled the call because I felt bad because I didn't want to waste their time, called the emergency doctors, canceled that call because I felt bad again, and then called my mom. And when I told my mom what was going on, she convinced me to call the emergency doctors, which I did. And they basically just asked me a few questions, asked me if I could stretch my arms, kind of concluded that I didn't have any severe heart problem, and told me that I was going to be fine. So I took an anxiety pill and went to sleep. And I remember in the middle of the night, I woke up and I couldn't feel my leg and my arm, but I knew that because it was on the opposite side of my body, that would not be a blood clot in my brain. So I kind of just went to bed. And that week I was kind of on the edge. I didn't know if that feeling was going to come back. And unfortunately it did a few days later. It was this feeling that I still struggle to describe, but it was a feeling that my body was shutting down. It was a feeling of sleeping arms. It was a feeling of tension in my head, almost a feeling of like a nerve that felt almost electrical in my neck. I felt off, let's just say that. And I went on Facebook, I wrote in migraine groups, I wrote in B12 deficiency groups. I was just trying to find answers. I went to the doctor, and I remember on the way to my doctor, I could not walk properly. I was so dizzy, I was so afraid of falling, and they did take a few tests on me. I also saw a doctor within the headaches field that also kind of couldn't find out what was going on. And when that initial blood test came back and everything kind of looked normal, I was told to go for a walk outside and just feel better. And obviously I knew deep down this is not mental. You know, this is not a mental health thing only. I knew that stress had triggered whatever was going on. I knew that I had anxiety around it and that anxiety played a part in this, but I had never had such severe anxiety, and I knew that something else must have caused it. And so around this time, I decided to get everything checked. I got my eyes checked, I got my ears checked, I even got an MR scan of my brain because I was scared and I was like, what is going on? Do I have a tumor? And obviously with the anxiety I had at the time, I wanted answers fast. And that is a whole side story that I won't go into depth with because it has not much to do with the overall theme of this video. But shortly put, they found very tiny small blood clots in my brain that I know today is quite normal. And if everyone got their brain scanned, most people might have some small blood clots that we were born with. But they found that, and that opened a whole nother process. So on top of me trying to find out what was wrong with me, I was suddenly in a whole system where they wanted to check my heart, where I was put on blood thinners and all that. But I know today that that has not anything to do with what I was feeling. It was something I was born with, and they're very small, so not anything that I feel. So back to the story. Every test came back normal. I was running out of options, and every time I felt bad, I took an anxiety pill. I went to the doctors, and they just told me that I was just stressed. Please, oh please, never make the mistake that I did and tell your doctor that you struggle with anxiety, because they will write it in your files and they will look at that, and every time you want to be taken seriously, they will just tell you that you're just being anxious. Then my mom, she looked at my blood test and she could see that half a year ago, my B12 level had been quite low. Not low enough to be like alarming, but low. And she told me that I might want to start taking B12. And that was when I realized that a lot of my vitamin levels were kind of low, and my doctors had not told me because it was within the average. But as I know now, even though your vitamin levels are within the average, that doesn't mean you're not feeling the deficiency. And so that's when I started getting B12 injections. And I did feel a little better for a little while. And that's when I started to think if getting injections might be a bit overkill. So I kind of got injections and paused, and got injections and paused, and I felt like it was helping a little bit, but honestly I didn't know if it was just the placebo effect. And also I was so sick and tired of not knowing. And as I said earlier, I still struggle explaining my symptoms because I've always struggled with that. It's something I feel internally, but describing how that feeling is difficult for me. But I can tell you that my body was kind of tingling, and it was kind of feeling like my blood was not flowing how it should through my body. I often had resting leg syndrome, and in my arms I just felt like something was seriously wrong. And to add to these problematics, a theme that goes through the whole process of healing for me was superficial breathing. It's something that I today know why I have, and I have almost solved that because it happens without me thinking about it, but I now know how to regulate it. And it's connected to some tension headaches that I have, which I've also found the cause for, but I still struggle with treating it. So those two things is like a theme through this whole healing process that I might go into depth with in another video. But basically, because I was feeling so anxious, I was not breathing how I should, and that made me lightheaded, and that made me feel very paranoid and just like not myself at all. And that leaves us to the next chapter, when everything got even worse. And this includes a whole lot of bloating and gut issues. So you might remember when I told you that I was getting everything checked. That also included going to the gynecologist. And that's when I found out that just with the rest of my body, everything was out of balance. And I got a whole lot of antibiotics to take. And that did not help, surprisingly. So she just gave me the same antibiotics once again. Still didn't help on my imbalances, but that's when my gut issues really started. And not only did I have so much bloating, I also had terrible constipation, and my reflux at the time started getting so much worse. I was feeling weak. I was feeling tired. And I think the worst part of all of this is that I was so weak and tired that I was slowly losing touch with my mission of not feeling like that. I was almost just accepting it because I felt too numb to be sad about it. So I was just kind of numb, tired, weak. And honestly, I thought I was going to feel like that forever. It's making me sad to even talk about it because honestly, I felt trapped. And I felt super dependent upon my family as well. Like, a big thing for me and for many people is the feeling of independence and empowerment. And all that which I have worked for my entire life just came crumbling down. I had to go to my grandmom and stay with her. And for a while, I was so scared to sleep alone that I had to sleep next to her. And I felt the opposite of a strong, empowered woman. I felt like a little kid. And being a woman and being cyclical, every month when I got really more in touch with my feelings, that's when I kind of woke up a little bit and knew something is wrong. I need to do something about this. And I would always try to write a lot of notes and really prepare myself for the month to come to act and to make sure that I was trying to solve this problem. But then a few days later, I was numb again. I did get a gastroscopy and a colonoscopy, which is basically a test of my stomach. So they put like a tube down, it was so uncomfortable, to test and see how my gut was, and also one the other way, up the butt, to check kind of the system from that way. And at the time, I was told that I had a terrible amount of reflux. I actually had no idea that I had reflux, which was odd because at the time, I was only really experiencing symptoms from it a little bit. So I actually had no idea that I had reflux. But as I found out later, that's all connected to my other issues. Another thing is that I was then prescribed medicine for reflux. But as I will tell you later, but let me tell you now, I found out that my stomach acid is too low. Do you know how bad it is to take medicine for reflux that decreases the stomach acid when you already have too little stomach acid? That will make your whole system worse. That will make you less able to digest your food, less able to get the nutrition out of the food, and just make you feel way worse. So I was definitely surprised that they just gave me medicine for too high amounts of stomach acid without even testing whether I had too much or too little. So please get that checked if you ever experience reflux, because that will tell you why you have it. I also got a CT scan, which was like a scan of my abdominal area, and very TMI, but basically they told me I was full of poop. I was so constipated that they could see it on the scan, and they told me that I had to do something about that. So what do you think they did? Of course, they didn't help me to find out why I was being constipated. They just told me I was chronically constipated and that I could take medicine for it. But I knew that I had only been constipated for like half a year, maybe more, and I knew that there must be some other explanation, that I was not chronically constipated. I knew that I could solve this problem, but the doctors were just not helping me. And that's kind of the problem with our whole health system. I know I'm a Dane and we have free healthcare, and I should be so grateful. And I do think that the doctors we have are great. If you have a health emergency, if you have a blood clot, a heart attack, your bones break, when you need immediate care, those are the best. But if you have a holistic problem that requires a variety of specialists to kind of find out why, and you kind of also want to know the reason so that you can prevent it from getting worse, then our doctors are the worst. Because that's not really what they're educated for. They're not educated for preventing disease. They're educated to treat it. And then it's all about, do you have a common disease that most doctors know about, or do you have rare, vague symptoms? Because then it might be very difficult for them to ever find out. I especially also realized that when it comes to vitamin deficiency, that's not really a hot topic for doctors. It seems like doctors are more interested in the grand kind of diseases, whereas deficiencies kind of go unnoticed. That's just my experience, but that's how it was for me.
Drink water.
So basically, my whole system was out of balance times 100. And I will say, I was really trying to find a grand reason. I was kind of trying to find a disease that fit on all my symptoms, because I was like, surely my whole system cannot be out of whack and it's different things. It must be all collected. It must be all the same thing that is causing my whole system to feel like this. So I was doing research. I was trying to find out what was wrong with me. And luckily, I had changed doctors to a doctor that was kind of on the same team as me. Let's just say that. She did not shoot my ideas down. She was actually open to test out my ideas. So when I came to her and asked if we could check me for asthma and also refer me to a gut doctor, which is how I found out I had reflux, she was quite open, but she wasn't really good at doing the detective work and finding out why I was feeling so bad. And so that was really nice and I appreciated that, but I was still not finding any answers. And that's when I had enough. That's when I knew I needed to find an expert that could give me answers. I needed answers, and I was so tired of being told that I was just being stressed. Yes, stress can trigger symptoms. Stress can trigger diseases, but that doesn't make the symptoms or the disease less problematic. So telling anyone that stress has caused it will not reverse it once it's already developed. So I knew that obviously I had to take care of my stress. Obviously I had to take care of my body. I was doing all that work because, long story short, I was not working. I had graduated from my master's, which I was so lucky that I just got through, actually with an A, which I don't even know how I did that. But after that, I crashed. I completely crashed, and I needed time to find out why I was feeling so sick. And for that, I am so grateful to live in Denmark, because I was able to get a little bit support from the government while I was on sick leave, which allowed me to kind of pay rent and pay for food and go through this whole process without being completely broke. But I did also need my family support, because going to the chiropractor, going to alternative health practitioners, and, as I will tell you in a minute, going to private doctors is very expensive. And the little amount of money I got from the government while I was sick did not cover that at all. So again, I felt very dependent upon my family, and that was just not very empowering. So in the end, I had found a very good doctor. A doctor that the people in the B12 deficiency Facebook groups had recommended. I thought, she must know what's up. It seemed like she was good at doing the detective work to kind of find out what is wrong with the body beyond what regular doctors look at. So I went to the whole other side of Denmark to visit this doctor. I think it took like 3 or 4 hours to get there, but I didn't care. I just needed answers. So basically, I went to this doctor, and she was so cool. She gave me time, she gave me attention, I felt heard, which I think is also such a big thing of going to the doctor. You need to feel heard, because then you trust the answers that they give more, and it will work more, and placebo will play a whole role in your healing process, and I could go on. But she sat down, I was there for an hour, she wrote down everything I told her, and in the end she recommended me to get a DNA test on my health. She tested me for all sorts of vitamins deficiency and also mineral deficiencies, and she even tested me for heavy metals, which was really depressing, but I don't think it was anything uncommon, unfortunately. She also tested me for autoimmunity, and she referred me to a laboratory where I could get my gut tested and my cortisol levels tested. And that finally gave me answers. The DNA test came back. First of all, let me tell you, if you ever struggle with anything with your health and normal doctors cannot give you any answers on what is going on, get a DNA test. Like, I couldn't say that enough times. Get a DNA test, and also an autoimmunity test, but especially a DNA test, because it will help you understand your body. It will help you understand if there are any minerals or vitamins that your body struggles more with absorbing. So literally, it will help you live a long and healthy life. And that was the first indicator about what was going on with my body. I was really bad at absorbing folic acid, B12, but folic acid even more. I was good at absorbing magnesium, but I was really bad at transporting magnesium around my body. And then there was a whole other list of answers that I got, but those were like the 3 most meaningful ones. My autoimmunity test came back negative, thank God, but I'm sure if I had continued down that path, I could easily have developed some sort of autoimmune disease. And that was also something that affected me a lot. The fear of my sickness actually developing into a real and scary disease, which could have happened very easily. Then I had my gut tested, and turned out there's a very important bacteria that all humans are supposed to have in their gut. Do you think I had it? No, I did not. It's the bacteria Lactobacillus, okay? It's really important. It's part of dopamine production. It's part of digesting long gluten chains, which is something I struggled with. I couldn't eat gluten. I would always get a stomach ache, but my DNA test actually showed me that I have no problem with gluten. So I knew that there had to be another answer, which my gut test showed me that there were. I also had a lot of candida, which is very normal, but if your whole gut system is out of balance, then the candida can kind of overgrow. So I also knew that I had to do something about that. Then I also found out that I did have some parasite growth, which again is really normal. Not that we should have them or accept that we have them. There are many ways of cleansing the body, which is something that I'm actually really keen on trying out this year, because as of right now, I have just worked on improving my gut balance, but I still need to get rid of all the bad stuff. But I still feel so much better, so I guess that's a really good sign. But basically, I could see that I had some parasite growth and I had some candida growth, and I just knew that I need to add good stuff to my body. I need to add good stuff to my gut to weigh out all the bad things with good things. And my cortisol test came back, and obviously it was really high. I was being really stressed out by all this. So there I actually had it. The reason why I was constantly bloated and struggling with digesting my food was literally because I didn't have the bacteria I was supposed to have in my gut. And what is the most likely reason for that? The antibiotics. Antibiotics can do wonder for many diseases, but antibiotics kill both the good and the bad. And that's why taking probiotics when you are on antibiotics, and especially afterwards, is really important. And since my bloating got so much worse right after I had taken the antibiotics, I kind of knew that that antibiotic treatment had killed off the very little I had left of that bacteria. I probably didn't have a lot to begin with, which can be genetic from already existing gut problems, but for sure the antibiotics had killed off the last bits because it got so bad right after. And furthermore, the folic acid and the B12 explained my very vague system of a tingling body, a feeling of my body shutting down. And when I started taking those pills, and not just taking the pills, but taking bioavailable supplements, I felt so much better. But there's one thing that made me go from kind of better to, oh my god, is this how much energy normal people have? I did not know you could feel this amazing. And it might be a bit controversial. I had been a vegan for 10 years for all sorts of reasons, for the environment, for the animals, and from what I thought I knew, my health. And in the end, I thought, what do I have to lose? I was feeling better than I had earlier, but I was not on top yet, and I was willing to try anything. So I decided to try out meat again, and I feel both sad and happy that that was literally what made me feel so much better. The first weeks, I did feel like my body and the enzymes that I had in my gut didn't really know what to do with this food that I had not been eating for a long time, but only after a few weeks I started to feel so much better. I think one indicator that I needed to try to eat what I see as more bioavailable food, one indicator was that I actually started to dream about meat. I started to dream about eating eggs. It was like my subconscious mind was trying to tell me in my sleep that that is what my body was craving. And honestly, guys, it makes kind of sense. On on paper, vegan food contains the same amount of nutrition that non-vegan food does. But let's take iron for an example. It's much harder for the body to absorb iron from vegan food compared to non-vegan food. Using that as an example, the body, and especially my body, has definitely showed me that absorbing nutrients and minerals and vitamins from meat is just easier for it. And I think a stressed body wants easy. My body definitely did. And obviously, it's all about genetics as well. I could see on my DNA health test that I am Northern European, East Danish, which, I mean, no surprises there, but it's quite common for my ancestors to have struggled with absorbing B vitamins. It's a whole thing. So where I'm from, especially, I definitely benefit from eating meat. And especially something I want to get better at, I think I could feel even more amazing if I started eating organs or made bone broth, because that especially has a lot of collagen, which is something my DNA test told me that I was also struggling with producing actually. And actually, just to add on that, I did see that my skin was starting to fold more than I thought was normal when you're only 27. I knew that I was getting older, but it was going really fast, and I could see that it was like my body was almost getting wrinkles. I kind of knew that that was not normal. I felt in my body that that was not normal, and after starting to take collagen, that went away. And collagen is actually not something that you can ever have vegan. You can take a supplement with all the ingredients to produce collagen, but you cannot take a pure collagen supplement that is vegan. And because my body was struggling to produce collagen, I kind of had to start there. So that was the first non-vegan thing I started to take. And yeah, I started to feel so much more amazing. And as you can hear, I still have a long list of things I want to do more with my health. I want to cleanse properly. I want to include more nutritious, rich animal foods in my diet. But guys, I can't even begin to describe how grateful I am. Honestly, like I could cry right now that I finally feel better. Like I literally thought that I would never get a job again. Luckily in the Danish government I could literally go on early retirement, but if I had had to do that, to go on early retirement, never to work again in my life, like I would have felt like it would be the same as just giving up. So I am so eternally grateful that I managed to find the doctors that could give me answers, and from the bottom of my heart I believe in you guys as well. If you struggle with chronic fatigue, bloating, gut issues, problems with your health in general, and the symptoms are vague and the doctors are just telling you that you're stressed or tired, please know that there might be a reason to why you feel like that. And even though you might seek the extravagant, big explanations, it might start with the basics. It might start with nutrition and hydration and restitution. That's what saved me. And honestly, looking at food as something that should nourish me instead of something that should satisfy me has been a game changer as well. My cravings has gone. And to be honest, the whole amount of time I was vegan, I was constantly craving something, which I now know is kind of a sign that your body is lacking something, because your body is kind of trying to find that thing that will give you that vitamin or mineral that you actually need in your body. And so when I started eating to nourish me, unprocessed food, so important, fiber, fat, and protein in every meal, my cravings and the feeling of like, ooh, I need something, I'm kind of like, I have like a little sweet tooth, almost went away. Obviously, I'm still a woman. There are parts of my cycle where I'm like, I really need chocolate right now, but I do not feel like I need something extra anymore. I feel like I'm giving my body what it needs. I've heard so many people say, listen to your body will tell you what it needs, and I was like, my body's not speaking to me, I don't know what it wants. But when you try and give the thing to your body that it actually needs, you will know, and that will be such a great indicator that you're on the right path. So with all this being said, I believe in you guys. There are answers out there. Get a DNA test for sure. Like, that's my biggest advice. Get a DNA test. Go to a private doctor if you can afford it, and really try to eat less processed foods where you include the basics: protein, fiber, and fat. That's my biggest advice from this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions. I will write in the description down below which supplements helped me the most. No matter how long you've struggled, you can feel better. No matter how sick you feel, you can feel feel better. I wish you all the best day, the best evening, night, wherever you are in the world. And I'm forever grateful that anyone wants to listen to me talk about all this stuff. And I just hope that it can help someone. I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye bye.